Time Walk with me.
Hey everybody, welcome back again to Time Walk with me. Today we're going to do another fun deck tech video with one of my favorite decks. This is Orvar the Allform. This deck sort of builds itself, but I think everyone is going to be a little different, so here's mine. Now, the first thing you got to know about Orvar the Allform is that he makes you copy your creatures. And all you gotta do is target them with an instant or sorcery spell that targets one or more. Unfortunately, if you target more than one creature, you don't get to copy all the creatures, you have to choose one. But whatever, it's still pretty good. So here we have all of my cards that target, the instants and sorceries that target things. We got Teferi's Time Twist, that exiles target permanent you control and returns it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step, and it gets another +1/+1 counter if it's a creature. But since this can target any permanent, then with Orvar, you could actually make copies of, say, your lands, or your enchantments, or your mana rocks, anything. So that's pretty cool. We got Dream's Grip. Choose one. Tap target permanent or untap target permanent. This is another one that you can target any permanent you want, and you can entwine it. So you can actually tap one of your opponent's permanents, and then untap one of your permanents, and then make a copy of it. So that's fun. Enervate. Tap target artifact, creature, or land. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So, and again, you get to target just about anything, any permanent out there, except for enchantment. But it's cool. It's versatile, and it replaces itself, and that's fun. Toils of Night and Day. Tap or untap target permanent, then tap or untap another target permanent. So this is kind of like Dream's Grip, but a little more expensive, but still good. Still good. Capsize. This one has buyback. Costs 3. If you're going to buy it back, it costs 6, but you can return any permanent to its owner's hand. So you could do it to your opponent's stuff, or you could do it to your own stuff and make a copy of it and cast it again. Or it's any permanent, so you can do it on your lands. Although by the time you have 6, you don't really need the ramp. So, I don't know. Ghostly Flicker. Exile 2 target artifacts, creatures, and or lands you control. So there we go. You can copy an artifact, a creature, or a land, then return them to the battlefield under your control. Fun. You may tap or untap target artifact, creature, or land. Draw a card. Twitch. That is. Slip Through Space. This one makes a creature unblockable, and you draw a card, and you get a copy of it. So that's fun. We got Ghost Form. Up to 2 creatures can't be blocked this turn, so unblockable and a copy of one of those creatures. Taigam Strike. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn and can't be blocked this turn. And it has Rebound, so you get to copy one of your dudes and you get to copy again. Right, yes, because you do cast this card again from exile. So, yes, 2 copies of a creature on one card. Thermal Flux. Choose one. Target non-snow permanent becomes snow, or target snow permanent becomes not snow until end of turn. Then draw a card. So this is a target any non-snow, or target any permanent for 1 mana, and it replaces itself. So by itself, it doesn't do that much, but with Orvar, it's very good. Rescue. Return target permanent you control to its owner's hand. So you get a copy of any permanent. Twiddle. Tap or untap target artifact, land, or creature. Very cool. I guess I don't have to explain over and over again that you're getting copies of things. Reality Ripple. Target artifact, creature, or land phases out. This ability has gotten much more useful in recent years. So that's cool. Wipe Away. This one has split seconds, so you can't exactly counter it. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. So, yeah. Boomerang, return target permanent to its owner's hand. This is one of my favorite boomerang spells, my favorite bounce spells. In fact, they should have called the effect boomeranging, because 2 mana for any permanent to its owner's hand. Do it to you, you can do it to your opponent's stuff. It's just good. Target creature gains flying until end of turn, and it has flashbacks, so you get 2 copies for 1 mana each. Rescind, return target permanent to its owner's hand, and it has cycling, so if you don't need a copy of something, you can cycle it. Mindbend, change the text of target permanent by replacing all instances of one color word or basic land type with another. And the cool thing about this is that the card doesn't have to have any instances of color or basic land words in the text. You can target anything with it. Trait Doctoring. Change the text of target permanent by replacing all instances of one color word with another, or one basic land type with another until end of turn. And Cipher. So this one, it might do nothing but copy from Orvar, but it will also cipher onto a creature, and if that creature does combat damage to somebody, you get another copy of it. Displace. Exile up to 2 target creatures you control, then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. So that's a fun one. You get ETB effects, and you get a copy. Sleight of Mind. This card, you would think, why would I ever use this card? But in Orvar, it's quite useful. Change the text of any card being played or already in play. This is revised wording, but whatever. By replacing one color word with another. So it's kind of like those other cards, except it only does colors. Okay, so next category we have the kind of creatures that you might want to copy. Here we are. We've got Murmuring Mystic. It's a 1/5 wizard. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you get a 1/1 flyer. So more copies of this gives you more triggers, more more birds. Djinn of Wishes, 4/4. When it comes into play, or it enters the battlefield with 3 wish counters, and then you can pay 4, remove a wish counter, reveal the top card of your library. You can play that card without paying its mana cost. If you don't, exile it. So I have used this in this deck, and it's come in handy. It's at least a 4/4 flying. That's a good thing to have multiple of. Wandering Archaic. This is a bit of a staple. I was getting a bunch of these in packs, so I'm pretty happy to have this. It's a 4/4. Whenever opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, they may pay 2. If they don't, you may copy that spell and choose new targets for the copy. So, again, that is helpful with Orvar. Oh, actually, no, it is not, because you copy the spell, but you're not casting it. Oh well, it's still a good card, especially to have multiple of, because it's not it's not legendary. Hullbreaker Horror, 7/8 flash, can't be countered. Whenever you cast a spell, choose up to 1. Return a spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So that's a good card. And this one's foil, so yay. Sad Robot. When it comes into play, you search your library for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle, and when it dies, you draw a card. Might be good to have multiple copies of. Venser, Shaper Savant. When he enters the battlefield, return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand, and it's got flash, so it counters, but it doesn't exactly counter. If you have a spell that's being cast and it can't be countered, this can still counter it. Sort of. It returns it to its owner's hand. But, hey, it's better than nothing. Dungeon Geists. This card has saved me before in games. 3/3 flying. When it comes into the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Dungeon Geists. And now that I think about it, it wasn't this card that saved me, it was a similar one. But that could be a very useful creature to have many of. Servant of Yawning Depths, 6/6. Krakens, Leviathans, octopuses, and serpents you control can't be blocked except by krakens, leviathans, octopuses, and serpents. So basically, it's a 6/6 unblockable. Frostlinks. This is the one that saved me before. When it comes into play, tap a creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So you keep making copies of this. You keep bothering your opponent's creatures. Spark Double. This is a very good card for this deck. You can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or planeswalker you control, except it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter, additional loyalty counter, +1/+1 counter if it's a creature, loyalty counter if it's a planeswalker, and it isn't legendary if that permanent is legendary. So the idea is you copy Orvar, and then every time you target something, you get 2 copies of it. In fact, you can even copy Spark Double and make multiple Orvars, and then you can really go crazy. Frost Trickster, 2/2. When it comes into play, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So it's the same thing as Frostlinks, except it has flying. It's just a strictly better Frostlinks. Eligeth Crossroads Augur. If you would scry a number of cards, draw that many cards instead, and a 5/6 flying with partner. So this makes a pretty solid commander, but in this deck, it's just here for drawing cards. It's not really here for copying. But if you have a Spark Double out, I don't know. Mirror Maid. You may have Mirror Maid enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or enchantment on the battlefield. Take advantage of stuff. We got Vesuvan Doppelganger. This is a fun one. This enters the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, and during your upkeep, you can change which creature it is. Very useful. Very good to have multiple copies of, because they become copies of Vesuvan Doppelganger, not just copies of, say, Elspeth, which would die. This is a better example. It wouldn't just be copies of Frost Trickster, it would be copies of Vesuvan Doppelganger copying it. Clever Conjurer, 2/3, tap it to untap another permanent. So you can see how that could be useful. Talrand Sky Summoner, 2/2, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, create a 2/2 blue Drake creature with flying. Not in here for being copied, it's just here for making blue drakes. Muldrifter, 2/2 flying. When he enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards, and he's got an evoke, but this is here to be cast and copied to make me draw cards. Okay, now, this is a blue deck, so it has to have some drawing cards in it. So here we have Drawn from Dreams. For 4 mana, you get to look at the top 7 cards of your library, put 2 in your hand, and the rest on bottom of your library in a random order. Archmage's Charm, for 3 blue. You can either counter a spell, make someone draw 2 cards, or gain control of a non-land permanent with converted mana cost 1 or less. So that could be useful. Pour over the pages. Draw 3 cards, untap up to 2 lands, then discard a card for 5 mana. Pretty good. It's really more like for 3 mana then. You have to have 5 mana, but you end up with 2 lands untapped. Mindspring, draw X cards, X and 2 blue. Yeah, drawing cards. I think people don't really like these kind of cards, these draw X cards, but I don't know, I like them. Mysterious Tome, 2 of any tap it, draw a card, transform Mysterious Tome, and the other side is Chilling Chronicle, 1 of any tap it, tap target non-land permanent, transform Chilling Chronicle. So it keeps going back and forth as you use it. Now we have Behold the Multiverse, scry 2, then draw 2 cards, and it has Foretell for 2, so half price. Unexplained Vision, draw 3 cards for 5 mana, but you can also scry 3 if you used at least 3 blue mana to cast it, which you would, because this is a mono blue deck. Stroke of Genius, 3 mana and X, target player draws X cards. And Archmage Emeritus, 2/2. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. And this guy is not legendary, so you can copy him and end up drawing yourself to death if you want to. Okay, what is next? Next we'll look at some of these cards good for sort of selection. We got Jace's Sanctum. Instant or sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, as if they weren't cheap enough already. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, scry 1. So, very useful. Jace Mirror Mage. And it is a foil, as you can see. Okay, it's got Kicker 2, and it's a Planeswalker for 3 mana with 4 starting loyalty, so that's kind of cool there. And when he enters the battlefield, if he was kicked, create a token copy of him that's not legendary with a starting loyalty of 1, and +1 you can scry 2, or 0 you can draw a card and reveal it. Remove a number of loyalty counters equal to that card's converted mana cost from Jace Mirror Mage. So if you've been scrying, you know what the converted mana cost will be. So, very helpful. And you'll have 2 Jaces out, so you'll be able to scry potentially 4 in a turn. Sensei's Divining Top. This one is self-explanatory. One of any, look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put them back in any order. Tap, draw a card, then put Sensei's Divining Top on top of its owner's library. There's some tricky thing that you can do with Sensei's Divining Top, but I can't think of it right now. My brain is not on. I think it's these lights. But whatever, we'll move on to miscellaneous cards. This one, potentially a game ender, Clone Legion, gives you a token copy of every creature that an opponent has. Wizard Spellbook, tap it, exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard, from any graveyard, not just yours. Then roll a d20, then activate this only as a sorcery. Then 1 through 9 you can copy that card and you can cast the copy. So that's very useful with Orvar. You are casting the copy, so the ability will be used there. 10 to 19, copy that card. You can cast the copy by paying 1 instead of its mana cost. That's good if you have like Clone Legion. And if you roll a 20, copy each card exiled with Wizard Spellbook. You may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana costs. So that could be very good. Mirror Box. The legend rule does not apply to permanents you control. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1, and each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. Basically, this is here for the legend rule not applying anymore. So you can make copies of legendary creatures without worrying about them dying. Rod of Absorption. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, which I will be doing a lot, exile it instead of putting it into a graveyard as it resolves. Then X, tap, sacrifice. You may cast any number of spells from among cards exiled with Rod of Absorption with total mana cost X or less without paying their mana costs. So if everything costs 2, you can pay 2, sacrifice it, make lots of copies of your creatures. It's cool. Soul Ring, obviously, because it's a Soul Ring. I think these are going to be ramp cards. We got Lotus Bloom. It's got Suspend, but I still think it's a good card. I like anything that's a Lotus. Sisei's Ring, 4 of any, tap for 2. It's a strictly worse Soul Ring, but it's still good. Sapphire Medallion. This came in a very lucky pack. Your blue spells cost 1 less to play. They're very cheap anyway, so you don't really need that much ramp in this. Now, these are going to be the combos in the deck. So Peregrine Drake and either Mind Games or Whim of Volrath basically will give you infinite mana, though you don't need it that badly. If you have Peregrine Drake out, when you bring him out, you untap up to 5 lands. If you were to cast Mind Games on him for 3 mana, not for 3, for 1 mana plus the buyback, you're paying 4 mana to tap him, but also make a copy that untaps 5 lands. So then you can keep on playing Mind Games. And Whim of Volrath, same thing, except it costs 3 mana to do, so you're netting 2 mana or 2 lands every time. And the final combo, we got Leveler and Laboratory Maniac. Once you have Laboratory Maniac out, if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. And Leveler, when it enters the battlefield, exile all cards from your library. So you can see what they do together. Now we have some lands. The only non-basics we have in here, we got Vesuva, which enters as a copy of any land on the battlefield. We got Reliquary Tower, which gives you no maximum hand size. Thespian Stage, which can turn into a copy of a land. And Skyline Cascade, which makes a creature an opponent controls not untapped during its controller's next untap phase. So, lots of fun. And then the rest is islands. Just various sets of islands. So, there we go. That is my Orvar the All-Form deck. One of my favorites. What do you think? See you next time.